You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's April 24th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. I'm live here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca. Just so you know, Cindy has the day off, and Glenn is busy. I'm sure he's gonna spend a little bit of time by himself by the looks of it, as his wife Cindy is off to visit family. Other than that, I got some sad news, some news from the cannabis world. This is our first news broadcast since going into the long weekend. So it's been a week now since we had a news broadcast, and during that time, a friend of ours and a fellow who broke the doors for many, as well as basically made a major change in the way people looked at cannabis. And so I sadly have to report that for those who don't already know, Marco Renda, the founder of Treating Yourself magazine, treatingyourself.com, and the Treating Yourself Expo, it's always on the wall behind me. He passed away on Good Friday. Late that day, and he's going to be missed by many. He hasn't been as active in the cannabis community for the last several years, but there's no doubt about it. The work that he did with the magazine, and even before the magazine, the forum, and I'm going back to like 2003, was huge. You know, who would think you take a forum, turn it into a magazine that's available globally? It was also published in Spain and translated into Spanish. And it grew into an expo that brought exhibitors from all around the world. From South Africa, Europe, different places, obviously in Europe, the US, Canada. It was like a yearly meeting for those 4 years for all the cannabis advocates from around the world to get together and share ideas. And at that time, you know, cannabis was illegal. People weren't even thinking about cannabis being legal back then. This is, you can see on the sign there, 2010. Who was talking about legalizing cannabis? There sure were no politicians talking about it. Marco was able to rent a federally owned government hall to allow him to hold a medical cannabis expo that featured documentary films, marijuana music awards, speakers, lecturers, doctors, researchers, and booths, you know, vendors. He had an advocacy row where advocates could all the advocates had booths. Some of it was stuff for booths that he gave to the advocacy groups because he knew that they couldn't afford it. But he knew that their voices meant something, so he had them involved. Not only that, but he also had the world's largest indoor vapor lounge at the time. Yet again, inside a government building, federally owned. And yeah, right. The first year we had it in a room, one of the seminar rooms, with 12 volcanoes in there. And then after that, they was up on the main floor, right there for everybody, to, it was all under the same roof, in the same hall, the whole bit. So it was good. It was great. Unfortunately, good things do sometimes come to an end. And as one CEO of an event that happens yearly now said to me when I talked to them about TY Expo, they said that could never happen today. We had live plants on the floor that were in full bloom. Can't have that today. Couldn't have a vapor lounge today. There's no way. So, but that's when laws get brought in and things get changed. So that's how I'm going to start the news today. Let everybody know that Marco Renda has passed on, lost his battle with cancer. He had liver cancer. And this coming Wednesday, which would be next coming Wednesday, which would be, I believe it's April the 30th, on the Pace Radio Show, I'm going to do like a tribute to him. Go through the magazine. We're going to do watch some video stuff on the expo. And I'm hoping to have some people come in, drop in, whatever, and say a few words about Marco. I've seen some very nice posts out there, so I'm going to look at inviting them and others to come to the show, spend a few minutes talking about Marco, and go on from there. So that's next Wednesday. Other than that, I think it's time for me to get on with the news. And I got good news for people in Manitoba, finally joining most of us in Canada, other than Quebec. And that is the fact that Manitoba's home grow bill to come into force on May the 1st. So that's 1 week from today. People in Manitoba will finally be able to join most of Canada and be able to grow their own cannabis. That's right. Adults in Manitoba may be able to be growing 4 plants at home this May. The Manitoba government has now listed May 1st as the coming into force date, as its repeal of the prohibition on adults growing up to 4 cannabis plants at home. That is the date that the Liquor, Gaming, and Cannabis Control Amendment Act comes into force. That legislation will allow a person who is 19 years of age or older to cultivate up to 4 cannabis plants in their residence. In a notice in January, the proposed regulations require cannabis to be grown in an indoor location that is inaccessible to young persons. So indoor only, people. There is no outdoor coming to people in Manitoba, but there's indoor. That's the start, right? Work on it from there. The previously announced proposed coming into force date for the legislation was April the 1st, 2025. Bill 34, the Liquor, Gaming, and Cannabis Control Act, which repealed Manitoba's ban on growing up to 4 cannabis plants at home, passed the Manitoba legislature on June the 3rd, 2024. The ban on growing cannabis at home had been put in place by the former Progressive Conservative government in Manitoba in 2018. The Manitoba NDP committed to repealing the bill and did so after forming the government following the October 2023 election. The proposed regulations will allow a person who is 19 years of age or older to cultivate up to 4 cannabis plants in their ordinary residence. However, a person will not be allowed to cultivate cannabis plants in different residences at the same time, and only 4 plants can be in a home regardless of how many adults reside there. So that's similar to the rest of Canada. All cannabis plants will be required to come from seeds or plant material that is not illicit cannabis. And all plants must be cultivated indoors in a room or a container that is securely locked or in a location that is not otherwise accessible to young persons. And there's the notice there from the government, some information there, listing out everything there. Now, in a recent memo from the Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, retailers were informed that they would soon be able to add cannabis seeds to their product offerings. Tina Jansen, the buyer at Farmer Jane Cannabis, which has 6 locations in Manitoba, says that she hopes to have seeds in store by early June following a product call from the MBLL. She says, "I'm hopeful we will not be waiting long after that May 1st date before we'll be able to purchase seeds, because I do think there will be an initial rush of people very excited to try their hand at growing cannabis." It's too bad they couldn't do it now. I know it's only a week, but get those seeds some time. But yeah. Jesse Lavoie, who helped spearhead a lawsuit targeting Manitoba's homegrown ban with his group, Tobagrown, says he is happy to see the law progressing, but has concerns with some of the proposed regulations. He says, "Manitobans deserve, and we at Tobagrown are beyond excited to watch homegrown community grow and thrive in Manitoba. If a ban on growing 4 plants outdoors is set in place, I will move forward." It says, if a ban on growing 4 plants outdoors is set in place, I will move forward with a challenge in court. Although we hope to avoid further legal battles, we've come too far to accept past measures. Let's make home growing truly accessible. So there, he said that in an email. So there you go. It doesn't sound like his court challenge is going to end. As I said, it's only indoor, and he believes that outdoors should be allowed. And I completely agree with him, and I'm sure that I am not alone on that whatsoever. All right, I see I got a comment. Let's see what we got. We got a message from Kent. He says, "Good morning, Al. My condolences." Thank you very much, Kent. Thank you. Right, on to the next story. Way to go, Manitoba. Got their foot in the door. We just need you to be able to grow outside. All right, here we go. On to the next story. Here it comes. Headline there, which comes to me from Technology Network, says that MDMA and psilocybin may reversibly impact fear and stress responses. It's down here. It's long. There we go. Mass General Brigham. Researchers found that interactions between immune and brain cells drive fear responses, but treatment with psychedelics like MDMA and psilocybin may reverse these effects. A new study suggests that fear and immune system are connected in previously unknown ways. Researchers at Mass General Brigham found that the immune system can influence stress and fear behaviors by changing how brain cells communicate. The investigators further showed that psychedelic treatments could target these neuroimmune interactions and reduce stress-induced fear in preclinical models, and found similar results in human tissue samples. Really? There's a lot of people out there with immune issues, and I'm one of them. Now, according to Michael Wheeler, he's a corresponding author, and he is with the Jean Lay Institute of Immunology and Inflammation, says our study underscores how psychedelics can do more than just change perception. They can help dial down inflammation and reset brain immune interactions. This could reshape how we think about treatment for inflammatory disorders and conditions like anxiety and depression. Yes, inflammatory disorders right here. Prior research has shown immune signaling can drive the development of neuropsychiatric diseases such as major depression disorder. However, the ways that specific immune mechanisms can also affect behaviors due to chronic stress, or MDD, remained unclear, which is the major depression disorder. Using a mouse model of chronic stress, the researchers determined that an increased crosstalk between cells in the amygdala, or the brain's fear center, posted fear behaviors, elevated inflammatory signaling, and deactivated fear-promoting amygdala neurons. Furthermore, inflammatory immune cells called monocytes migrated from other parts of the body to the brain meninges during chronic stress. The research team demonstrated that artificially manipulated these cells impacted fear behaviors. Treating stressed mice with psilocybin and MDMA prevented monocytes from accumulating in the brain and lowered fear behaviors. The investigators found similar signals of response to stress in human brain cells and in gene expression data sets from patients with MDD, suggesting that the same interactions between the immune system and the brain may play a role in psychiatric disorders in humans. The authors note that further experiments are needed to understand exactly how psychedelics affect immune cells and brain communication. The next steps include examining the long-term effects of psychedelic treatments on patients with MDD or inflammatory diseases. Wheeler is currently collaborating with investigators from the Massachusetts General Hospital Center for the Neuroscience of Psychedelics on a clinical trial of patients with depression who are being treated with psychedelics and will examine their tissue samples. Wheeler says that we're not saying that psychedelics are a cure-all for inflammatory disease or any other health conditions, but we do see evidence that psychedelics have some tissue-specific benefits, and that learning about them could open up entire new possibilities for treatments. Wow, I did not know that it was going to be in the inflammatory end of things for diseases and conditions. You could just think, and will help. I got my cat right here. Will help with other immune conditions, like MS. I know that a good friend of ours here at the network, Allison. She's always doing mushrooms to help her with her condition. So, alrighty, from that story, let's move on to the next one as I load it up here, and we are heading to the U.S. See what's going on there on the cannabis front, and here we go. Headline from the Business of Cannabis says that the legal challenge over the DEA's handling of cannabis rescheduling dropped, removing one barrier preventing progress. There we go. A coalition of pro-cannabis medical professionals has dropped its lawsuit against the DEA, clearing one of the many hurdles preventing the process from progressing. As the DEA's long-awaited hearing on cannabis rescheduling remains on hold indefinitely, Doctors for Drug Policy Reform, a coalition of over 400 physicians advocating for evidence-based cannabis policy, has confirmed the withdrawal of its appeal. Just a day ahead of the deadline for the D4D PR to submit its reply brief for its legal case ahead of a scheduling hearing on May the 12th, 2020, the coalition filed a motion to dismiss the petition. In an explanation of its withdrawal published on its website yesterday, which was April 21st, 2025, the coalition said that it had achieved its principal objective of bringing the DEA's alleged biases into the spotlight and remained concerned that its legal case could set the process back further. However, should the DEA choose not to agree with the recommendations of the HHS to reschedule cannabis, it has reserved the rights to re-urge its arguments at a later juncture. Good stuff. Now here's the case. In February 2025, the D4D PR launched a legal challenge against the administration, submitting a 56-page brief to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit on Monday, February 17th, calling for the selection process to be redone. Now, the D4D legal challenge alleges that the DEA acted arbitrarily when it selected a number of the participants at the hearing, rejecting 138 out of 163 applications. And the evidence I have seen, I have to totally agree with them. Furthermore, they have called the process oblique, arguing that no explanation was provided as to why certain participants were selected over others and why the majority of the participants were opposing to rescheduling. Last month, Business of Cannabis reported that new evidence was published as part of this case that pointed to a confirmation of bias within the DEA. Not only was the selection process entirely oblique, but the DEA issued 12 so-called cure letters to participants in the rescheduling process, requesting additional information to demonstrate their eligibility as a person adversely affected or aggrieved by the proposed rule as required under federal law. Copies of these letters include court filings revealed a significant bias in their distribution. Of the 12 recipients, 9 were sent to entities that were strongly opposed to rescheduling, indicating a clear skew towards prohibitionist perspectives. Only 1 letter was sent to a known supporter of rescheduling. 1. The University of California, San Diego Center for Medicinal Cannabis Research, a government entity. However, after the CMCR provided the requested information and confirmed its support for the rule, the DEA ultimately rejected its participation without explanation. Oh yeah, that was fixed right from the get-go. The evidence is just overwhelming. Kevin Sabat there from Smart Marijuana, whatever you call it, working behind the scenes of the DEA. Just so wrong. So wrong. So yeah, I'm glad they're being called out. And the doctors have done the right thing by putting a hold on it because they don't want to slow it down. But it's great to see that they have that opportunity or that option to bring their case back before the courts, because it is something that they have to stay on. They've got several hundreds doctors that are supporting them in this all across the U.S. and doing it for patients, and hopefully their stand forces the government in the end to make the changes that are required. All right, talking about changes, we're making it on to my last story before we go to break, and this is coming to us from Entrepreneur, and it says Alabama court ruling voids medical cannabis licenses. What? An Alabama court ruling on Monday overturned the December 2023 issuing of medical cannabis licenses by the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission, according to CBS 42. The ruling is the latest setback for Alabama's medical cannabis licensing process, which officials have attempted multiple times, but legal challenges have repeatedly hindered the process. The process may need to start again now, even though some operators have existed for over a year, believing they had a secured license. In its ruling, the Circuit Court of Montgomery County invalidated the AMCC's decision to use an emergency rule to continue its licensing process after 2 previous attempts were thwarted. John McMillan, AMCC director, expresses frustration with the situation in a WSFA report. He says, just continued high level of frustration with the way this has evolved. Has become pretty obvious that there's some powerful forces in Alabama that are intent on keeping this program from getting going unless they have their way. Whatever that way seems to be becoming at every angle. McMillan said the agency is considering its options and has not ruled out appealing the court's decision to invalidate the licenses. So there you go. Court shut down a medical cannabis program. Why? This doesn't make sense to me. All righty, people. That's first 4 stories. It's time for me to take a break and time for me to let my cat out. Other than that, you are watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Education. I'm live here at paceradio.net, 420 pace.ca, and we'll see you in about 2.5 minutes.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, I'm back. Got some more news for you. We got more news here right from Canada, and we got some news from Italy, and I got some news from the US, and that's where I'm going to get started off. And here we go. This comes to me from Entrepreneur. Nebraska committee rejects bill to implement voter-approved medical cannabis program. A committee rejects bill to implement a voter-approved program. Nebraska Legislative General Affairs Committee earlier this month voted 5-3 against advancing a bill to implement and regulate medical cannabis in the state. Nebraska's Examiner reports. The disapproval by the committee leaves the state's patients in limbo despite the reforms being approved by 67% of the voters last November. Okay, so that's 2/3 of the voters said, bring us a program. So why did they say no? Let's see. Why did the committee say no? State Senator Ben Hansen, who introduced the legislation, told the Independent that the legislation is a must for the 2025 session to prevent the Wild West. Without a regulatory bill, the commission created by voters to regulate medical cannabis has no power or funding. He says that I don't want to shut all the doors right now, but some doors are closing, and they're closing fast, so we're having to act. The committee has tried to negotiate an amendment with Hansen that would have regulated cannabis through the state's prescription drug monitoring system, in addition to seed-to-sale tracking systems, and would have limited the medical cannabis qualifying conditions list to just 15 ailments. The amendment was not agreed to. Krista Eggers, executive director for Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana, told the Independent that the rejection will not be the end, and that advocates have every intention to keep fighting. All right, Krista, keep fighting. That's what you gotta do. That's what we had to do here in Canada, and we always continue to have to do. Even though it's legal, there's still things that need to be changed, whether it's for a patient or even for legalization. There's always things that can be improved. There's no doubt about that. All right. Now I'm heading to StratCan for something right here in Canada. And headline there says the clear cannabis packaging making its way to the shelves. Yeah, our packaging wouldn't allow people to see the buds. Cannabis packages with transparent windows are finally making their way to some shelves in Canada a month after the new rule changes from Health Canada came into effect. In March, the federal cannabis regulator finalized the range of rule changes for cannabis producers, including several that will be noticeable to consumers, such as larger cannabis pre-rolls, streamlined labeling requirements for THC and CBD, multicoloring packaging, QR codes, and see-through windows for cannabis flower. At least 2 producers were fully prepared for these changes and have products on shelves or coming to shelves soon that feature these cutout windows, satisfying a demand from both the industry and consumers alike since cannabis was first legalized. Josh Gadweski, the owner of micro-producer in Alberta called Kajak Cannabis Group, recently introduced some of his own recently harvested cannabis in packaging that allows consumers to see the flower. The products are currently available in the Alberta market. Well, there you go. You see the buds right there, people, right there. The changes are a good step forward, he says. Goes on to say that I'm so happy about it. The window is actually a core part of my business plan. Simplified. THC numbers are great as well because most consumers don't understand the THC, THCA distinction. Trust me. I was a bud tender for 2 years. QR codes increase information flow to bud tenders and consumers and are no-brainer. It's also a way for qualified flower to be distinguished itself from lower quality product, he says. Some of the flour selling right now wouldn't move if a person could see it before they bought it. With top shelf flour, putting it in a clear bag or jar will set these brands apart. Either you have flour worthy of being seen or you have something to hide. It's called bag appeal, and it's how it used to be sold. It sure did. You got your Ziploc baggie, you looked at it and said, that looks good. Yep, I'll take that. So, a lot of people do the same thing. Chris Crombie, the founder and chief operating officer of Atlantic Cultivation, a cannabis producer in Newfoundland, has similar packaging for his products that he hit the ground running with as soon as Health Canada made the new rules official. He says he expects them on shelves in the coming weeks. Overall, he shares the similar sentiments to Gadweski. He says, there's always value for me in letting consumers see the flower. Our flower presents really well and has a good bag appeal. So it's something I've always wanted to do. The consumers want to know what they're smoking, especially with a premium brand. People want to know what they're paying for. Still, he says, he does see how the issue could be a challenge for some retailers, especially those in busier locations. Okay. I said, a clear jar. Okay, I see what that is so people can see. He says that at the retail level, it could definitely cause a shift in consumers. People are going to want to select their nugs. So I can see consumers coming in and wanting to see several packages, which I think is something the retailers are going to have to learn to handle. I think the consumer will be a lot happier at the end of the day, but if you're in a high volume store and there are people lining up behind you, that definitely puts pressure on the retailer. He goes on to say, I think it's good for the industry overall. Retailers will figure out their procedures and what they allow the consumers or the customers to do, but I can see that being a bit of a hurdle that could create some initial difficulties for retailers. I also wonder when it comes to retailers too, that if you got product coming in that is in the old system of packaging and a customer requests something in a see-through container and they know it's available on the market, will that retailer be stuck with that old packaging? Will they be able to return it? Will they be able to put it on a discounted price? Who knows? We'll see what happens in time. Now, Ian Scott, VP of Operations for Plant Life Cannabis, with 42 retail locations in the Alberta market, says he has seen a few other products on shelves with clear packaging, including Natural History, Super Toast, and Space Race. Consumers are excited, he tells the StratCan. Most cannabis shops do not have products visible, such as sensory jars, as they did in the early days of legalization. Being able to see the physical product prior to purchase, not hidden in a bag, only creates trust and transparency when guests are making a buying decision. Just think, when you go to get your groceries, and you go to the veggie area, and you're looking at all the vegetables that are available. Most people look through it looking for the something that looks really good and doesn't have any bad spots in it. So cannabis is a plant. There's researchers such as Dr. William Courtney that say cannabis is a vegetable. So why not allow people to be able to see the plant? Like, it's nothing scary, right? There's no need for that. The stores don't allow minors, so kids wouldn't be able to see it. So, alrighty. On to my next story, we're heading to Italy because there the Italian court upholds classification of CBD as a narcotic. Yes, that's what it says, as a narcotic. Okay. Italy's emerging cannabis industry was dealt another major setback recently with an Italian court ruling that CBD classification as a narcotic is permissible. A previously approved measure in Italy equated floral hemp with cannabis flower that is high in THC content. Now, according to the report, it says, in yet another blow to Italy's beleaguered hemp sector, the Lazio Regional Administration Court, which is TAR, has rejected appeal of stakeholders challenging the government's restriction of oral CBD products, solidifying a ban that has drawn sharp criticism from legal and trade experts. Italy has now effectively banned all oral compositions of CBD derived from cannabis plants, including extracts from flowers, leaves, or stalks, limiting them strictly to prescription-only pharmaceutical use. The decision expands prior restrictions which only applied to flower-derived CBD, the outlet has also stated. Now, according to the recent economic report, Italy's cannabis light industry employs over 20,000 people. Cannabis light, which would be CBD. The light cannabis sector has a direct economic impact of almost 1 billion euros, with another additional billion of indirect impact, and the creation of 22,000 full-time jobs reported. This, I'm going to say newspaper, anyways, Dulce Vita, and it's quoted as saying, these are the recently updated estimates of the Italian light cannabis market, therefore relating only to inflorescences, that is, without CBD oils and shredded, developed in a study by MPG Consulting, led by the specialized economist David Fortin, together with the lawyer Maria Boletta, and commissioned by the Canapa Sativa Italia Mission, the outlet also stated. So, cannabis, CBD is a narcotic in Italy. And people wonder, why do we need to still march for the global marijuana marches? They say, oh, cannabis is legal in Canada. We don't need to march. It's a global thing, people. Italy is a perfect example of why people have to continue and should continue to march. And people did march. Some people did march over the 420 holiday. I've seen some reports of that, but that's not normally when the global marijuana march is. That'll be this year. It's always the first Saturday of May, and this year it is May the 3rd. So check out your local areas. Do a Google search. I know Toronto's having one, and I'm sure other locations are as well. All right, on to my last story of the day, and this one is coming to me from a place I've never used before, so it's new to me. And here we go. Come on. There we go. This comes to me from healthday.com. Psilocybin use dramatically increasing in the U.S. Oh, well, that's what the headline is. And you can see I didn't sign up for an extra thing, unlimited news. I did read it earlier, so it's one of those places that only allow you one story. So just so you know, psilocybin is dramatically increasing in the U.S. So which is, I would imagine, for many people, a very good thing. Unfortunately, the federal laws will be behind, just like it is in the cannabis end. There are several states that have legalized cannabis recreationally, and as far as the medical end, there's been a lot more of that, which is good to see. And that story that I had at the beginning of the broadcast, and how it can help with immune systems and inflammation. Hello, people with IBS, Crohn's, colitis, all that type of stuff. So if it's doing that, that's a good sign. It's a good sign. There's no doubt about that. All right, people. Other than that, I'm done for the day. Just want to reiterate what I said at the beginning of the broadcast, and that was to report that a friend and fellow colleague here, when it comes to the cannabis community, Marco Renda, passed away Friday night. That would be Good Friday, of liver cancer. He was founder of Treating Yourself magazine, treatingyourself.com, and the Treating Yourself Expo. All of them were so beneficial to patients. It's unreal what he accomplished, and how many doors he broke down, and how many voices he allowed to be heard. So, and to remind you that I'm looking at arranging something for this coming Wednesday night, so a week from today. You're looking at about April the 30th, I believe is the date. Wednesday night, during the Pace Radio show, I'm going to talk about Marco, working with Marco. We're going to be going through magazines, playing some of the videos that are online from the expo to show people how the expos were run back then. I think it'll open a lot of eyes, especially the people who are involved in today's expos and cannabis events that are happening in the halls, where it all started. You know, Marco's the one who started it all. Wanting to be in the trade shows in Toronto, and as I wrote, he wanted to attend all the big ones, all the ones downtown. And that's what we did. And attending things like the Canada's Bloom and Outdoor Show, or something was called. It was Canada Blooms. And International Home and Garden Show, which was out by the airport. National Women's Show, which was downtown. Health shows that were downtown. You know, we went to non-cannabis events to talk about cannabis and educate people and open their eyes. And we did that so many times. I'll explain one quick story. Where a fellow come up to the booth. He was in a wheelchair, and he had people with him. And he asked about what we were there for, and we told him. And he says, "Oh, he says that's something I can't do. I just had heart surgery and had stents put in." And we said, "Oh, really? It just happens." The newest issue that was just released talks about cannabis and stents, and slid the copy out to him, and he took it very willingly. He was very interested in it. So you just never know. You can change someone's mind very easily by just providing them with some information. The magazine hasn't been published since 2013. But the information and the knowledge that's still in that is in that magazine is still relevant for today. It can still educate patients and people today and encourage them. They can look at it and say, "This is 10 years ago. What has improved since then? What other research?" And get people to dig in. As an advocacy writer, I sort of look at a lot of the advocacy stuff that we covered within Ontario is a history of it. Every issue basically had a medical article in it. There was recipes in there. As far as the medical articles, especially early on, there was one writer, and I'm just trying to think of what their name is offhand. I just can't think of it right now. And they didn't use their real name. They had a fake name. You could tell just by the name itself. But every where they got their information. Every resource for that article was listed at the end of it, and some of it would be over a page long. So it's all good stuff. It's all very important. So Marco's gone, but let's hope that down the road we'll find out what's going on with treating yourself. So we'll find out what his wishes were someday. So all right. Other than that, I see I got some comments. Buddy Weeds, thank you, Buddy Weeds. Rest in peace, Marco. Buddy Weeds says, I was at the 2010 Expo. It was an amazing experience. Oh, I will never forget. Exactly, buddy. That, like I said, that's the poster. That's the big board from that expo. That expo alone. Dr. Bob Malamine, Dr. Juan Sanchez Ramos, Mary Lynn Mathry, Michael Kradwich, who's fighting down in the U.S. for veterans still today. You can see him on the Veteran Action Council. Which appears here on the Pace Network on Sundays at 8 p.m. Dr. Alexander Sumac. There's musical performances that were there. Chief Greenbud, Northern Lights, DJ Sims, Lost Marijuanas. It just went on and on. There was a comedy event. There was the Marijuana Music Awards. Yeah. So it was quite the event. And, maybe someday we'll have another one like it. Who knows? Other than that, folks, I've got to head. That's the news for today. Thanks to our buds at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, At-Eze.ca, and Limestone City Hydroponics.ca. Other than that, in closing, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate, because that's not good at all. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.